Oh, yeah.
No, it's not the officers. Derek, we have a hotline. We're ready. Okay, ready.
All rise, the mock court is now in session. The honor of Kerry Neves presiding.
Good evening, please be seated. All right, this is 22-00016, State of Texas versus Kim Adams. Stay ready to proceed. That's ready.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I will call upon the state to read the indictment, please. If the defendant would please stand.
Your Honor. You have the jury.
I thought we were going to bring them in. Okay. Please bring the jury in. Please be seated. All right, both parties have announced ready for trial. Introduction first, Ms. Brooks.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the UHCL mock trial program through the Legal Studies Department at University of Houston Clear Lake. We are so fortunate to have wonderful mentors. We have Mr. Ibrahim in the courtroom today, who has mentored the defense team tonight. Mr. Joel Bennett has mentored the prosecution, and we've had a number of other mentors as well. Two of the mentors are actually former graduates of this program. This is our sixth year that we have been so lucky. Judge Neves, the presiding judge of the 10th District Judicial District of Texas, located in Galveston County, Texas, has presided over this for us, which gives the students a very realistic experience. Judge Neves he was a sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps. He served as a council member in Dickinson from 1998 to 2012. Judge Neves graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a Bachelor of Business Administration, and the University of Texas Law School with a Doctorate of Jurisprudence. He's been a wonderful volunteer through all these years in his community. As a matter of fact, he has been recognized as the Community Service Citizen of the Year and in 2007 and Citizen of the Year in 2008. He was the Golden Eagle recipient for the Bay Area Council of Boy Scouts in 2017. And he practiced law in Galveston County for 33 years. He's board certified in personal injury law. He's past president of the Galveston County Bar Association and the board of, he's been a member of the board of directors for the State Bar of Texas. So would you please help me welcome Judge Kerry Neves as our presiding judge.
Correction, I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps, not a surgeon. I don't even play one on TV.
Thank you very much. We also are very fortunate to have Officer Hank Hughes with Nassau Bay Police Department. Officer Hughes has been in Nassau Bay for over 40 years and has served with that police department for around 40 years.
Going on 39.
39, okay, well, all right, on the road then. And has received many awards as an officer with Nassau Bay. He's also served as our bailiff for 6 years in this program. He began, in Nassau Bay as with the city, and while he was still in high school. He was a high school senior in 1980, which makes him younger than I am, darn it. And worked his way through the different agencies in the city. Went through Police Academy at Alvin Community College, which is also local, in 1984, and graduated summa cum laude with an associate degree in criminal justice from Alvin Community College as well. He holds a master peace officer license with the state of Texas, and we're very proud to have him in Nassau Bay, looking after us, looking after our citizens in Nassau Bay. Quotes of guidance, Officer Hughes says, I hope I shall always possess firmness and virtue enough to maintain what I consider the most enviable of all titles, the character of an honest man, which was first said by President George Washington, who was also a Freemason. So thank you, Officer Hughes. Help me welcome him. Thank you so much.
All right, let's begin again. This is cause number 22-000016, State of Texas versus Kim Adams. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Defense ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll call upon the state to read the indictment. If the defendant would please stand.
In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jurors for the county of Hawk, state aforesaid, duly organized as such at the January term AD 2022, upon their oaths in said court, present that Kim Adams, on or about the 3rd day of January 2022, and anterior to the presentment of this indictment in the county of Hawk and state of Texas, did and there, with the intent to harm or defraud another, obtain, possess, and or use the number and expiration date of credit or debit cards, namely Visa card number 12345678 9101 3726 with the expiration date of April of 2024. Chase Freedom Card number 4231 0514 8292 4500 with the expiration date of August of 2023. American Express card number 3712 960 339 54321, expiration date February of 2026. MasterCard number 5718 7750 0794 0236, expiration date September of 2022. And Capital One card number 1000 2136 5789 3316 with the expiration date of June 2025. Without the consent of the card holders, namely Seth Price, Amy Davis, Jesse Knight, Christina Anderson, and Sarah Smith, and the number of items obtained, possessed, and or used was 5 or more, but less than 10, which is a felony of the 3rd degree, against the peace and dignity of the state.
And is it signed by the foreperson of the grand jury?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Adams, you have heard the charges read against you. How do you plead to those charges?
Not
Your plea of not guilty is accepted and made a part of the record. You may proceed. All right, a brief opening statement from the state.
A big fear people have is losing their personal items or having them stolen from them, especially credit cards. And if the credit cards ended up in the wrong hands, it could be devastating. And that's precisely what this case is about today. On the afternoon of January 3rd, 2022, at the University of Houston Clear Lake, defendant Kim Adams was found to have 5 credit cards belonging to 5 different people in her possession. Evidence will show that Officer Jones witnessed a man and a woman engaging in an altercation in the parking lot of the university. The altercation was so intense that it gave him great concern, and in order to protect the public and the people in the vehicle, he approached the vehicle and asked the driver and the passenger to exit the vehicle. During his investigation, he called for backup, and Officer Eli arrived on the scene. When Officer Eli arrived on the scene, he witnessed Officer Jones detaining the driver and the passenger, Kim Adams, and Officer Eli will affirm Officer Jones' actions. During Officer Jones' investigation, he found the driver to have narcotics on him, and he arrested him. Incident to that arrest, he performed a routine inventory of the vehicle to preserve the valuables for their rightful owner. During that routine inventory, he located a backpack, which was sitting in the back seat where the defendant was sitting. And inside the backpack, he found 5 credit cards belonging to 5 different people, none of whom were in the vehicle with the driver or the defendant that day. Ladies and gentlemen, the state holds the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And we believe the evidence will show that Officer Eli believed Kim Adams was in possession of these credit cards. We also believe that she was in possession of these credit cards. And we intend to prove to you that the defendant Kim Adams fraudulently possessed those credit cards without the effective consent of the card owners and with the intent to harm or defraud others through her actions. It is because of that that we ask you protect the victims in this case and find the defendant guilty on all charges. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Opening from the defense, or would you like to reserve?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you may proceed.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The state will tell you that there is a direct link between Kim Adams and the backpack where the credit cards were found. But I'm here to tell you the facts of the case. And the facts are that only the money belonged to Kim Adams, and that is all. I ask you to pay close attention to the location of the items in the backpack. More specifically, where the money was found in relation to where the credit cards were. You will not hear a single piece of evidence that the credit cards were Kim Adams or that the backpack belonged to her at all. You will only hear about the money belonging to her. Officer Eli stated himself in the officer's report that there was no other identifying information found in the backpack. There will be no evidence connecting Kim to the credit cards in the ATM list because there is none. She told the officer herself that the money belonged to her. It was her pay for cleaning houses the day before. This traffic stop was a very stressful experience for Kim Adams. Being pulled over by an unmarked car, flashing headlights, kind of scary. You don't know who it is, you don't know why you're being pulled over. When she saw the officer with her money in his hand, she exclaimed that it was hers because she was worried that it wouldn't get back to her. And it was her money, she earned it. You will hear that Officer Eli found the money in the backpack. But you will also hear that never once did he ask whose backpack it was. There was a lipstick stained cup in the back seat right next to the backpack. And in the officer report, Officer Eli clearly states that the defendant, Kim Adams, was not wearing any lipstick. The officers did not get a DNA test for the cup or anything else in the car for that matter. And to incriminate someone, to convict them of a felony, you have to rule out all other possibilities. This is a felony we're talking about. Kim Adams will not be allowed to vote. She won't be allowed to own a firearm. There are apartment complexes that will not rent to her. She'll even be barred from attending lunch with her own children at their school. There's no room in this case for assumptions or uncertainties. Now, I want to remind you that the state bears the complete burden of proof in this case. They have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Kim Adams, on or about the 3rd day of January 2022, did then and there, with intent to harm or defraud another, obtain, possess, or use the number expiration date of the debit and credit cards without the consent of the account holders: Seth Price, Amy Davis, Jesse Knight, Christina Anderson, and Sarah Smith. And the number of items obtained, possessed, and used was 5 or more than less than 10, a 3rd-degree felony. With this in mind, I ask you to find the defendant, Kim Adams, not guilty. Because in order to convict someone of a felony, a life-altering decision, you have to rule out all other possibilities.
Thank you. All right, Officer, you, before we begin evidence, ask the jury to step outside just briefly, do not go for it. State and file a motion in limine. Has the defense had an opportunity to read it and review it?
Yes, Your Honor, I believe that that motion was heard yesterday.
Oh. Okay, was it granted?
And everything on the motion was granted.
All right.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then the defendant has filed a motion in limine. Have you ruled on, or did someone rule on that?
No, sir, they have not.
Okay, all right, and present your motion.
Yes, Your Honor, the defense makes a motion, number one, any statements that were made by the defendant in this case. There's not been any indication that the defendant was Mirandized, and for those reasons, we not say those statements by the defendant not brought in. Any prior offenses, and that's all we have.
Okay.
The statements that she made during the incident are material facts to the case. We have no issue with priors.
Okay, when the, our purposes here, the motion then will be granted if you think it's appropriate to bring it up. We'll ask the jury to step out and determine whether it is admissible. Okay. Anything else on your motion?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, please bring the jury back in. And please call your first.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call state's witness, Officer Jones, to stand.
Good evening. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. So have a seat. And you may be seated.
Please state your full name for the record.
Officer Jones.
What is your occupation?
I'm a police officer.
How long have you been a police officer?
10 years.
Since you've been a police officer, what additional training have you had?
I had 3 years of narcotics training, and then each year we have certification training for narcotics, additional.
Who do you currently work for?
Who would be?
Who are you working for in January 2022? Were you on duty January 3rd, 2022? As a police officer, what is your responsibility when off?
As a police officer, serve and protect the community still.
So what were you doing on the UHCL campus January 3rd, 2022?
I was dropping a child off.
What were you wearing that day?
Jeans.
Did anything happen around the time that you were dropping your child off? And what was that?
I observed a vehicle speeding at the parking lot.
And what county was that in?
Cougar County.
Is that in Texas?
It is.
So what happened next after you saw the car speeding through?
I observed the vehicle speed and cut through the parking lot and then turned westbound onto Bayer Boulevard.
Did the driver voluntarily stop or?
So I observed the vehicle and followed behind it. The vehicle then made a U-turn back into the school campus, which I continued to follow. And then it came to a stop in front of the, I believe it was the athletic field.
So what happened when the car finally stopped? I'm assuming you were behind the car at that point. When it stopped.
I was. So the vehicle stopped and then I exited my vehicle and approached.
What made you approach the car?
The unsafe driving. At first is the reason why I could follow behind it.
Did you see the driver or the passenger pass any objects to one another?
When I exited the vehicle, I heard yelling, saw physical altercation, like shoving.
So you saw a physical observation right before you approached the car?
As I was making my way to the vehicle through the rear window is when I observed the yelling and the pushing.
And was that the reason you approached the vehicle? The
It
yelling
was
and the
the
pushing?
second reason.
Yeah, the second reason. So the first reason was the speeding,
The unsafe driving,
and the second reason was an altercation.
the yelling. If I can hear it outside of the vehicle, obviously there's some yelling, so that's when I maybe approached the.
Did you approach the driver first?
I did.
How did you identify yourself?
I identify myself as an officer, so as a police officer in Texas, the department I work for, we're required to carry a badge or ID with us and a service weapon.
Who did the driver identify himself to be with himself?
The driver was identified as Avery. I can't recall the last name, so it was Avery.
What was his demeanor like?
Shaken up, red face, obviously something like, you could tell that they were in some sort of disagreement or argument, nervous. Someone gets really angry or upset, tell that their body language.
And did that cause you any concern?
It did,
Did you identify the passenger?
I did.
Who did the passenger identify themselves to be?
Avery Price.
The passenger.
Oh, the
not the driver.
passenger, Kim,
Do you remember her last name?
I do not.
Is Kim the defendant in this case?
I believe so.
Is Kim Adams in the courtroom today?
Yes,
Can you point to her?
yes, sitting.
Can you please explain what happened next after you approached the passenger? What happened after that?
I didn't have much dealing with the passenger, most of my dealing was with the driver.
Did you ask either of them to exit the vehicle?
I did.
Is it a common procedure to ask both of them to exit the vehicle?
Yes, in this case, it was.
And why is that?
Me not knowing what's inside that vehicle, obviously there was a physical altercation, tempers were flared. If there's anything in that car that could hurt myself or them, I would get away from it.
Was there any kind of pat down for either of the two individuals in the car?
On the driver, since his nervousness and just his body language, demeanor, I did a weapons pat.
And did you find anything?
There was an object in his front pocket. I asked him what it was,
And what did he tell you that it was?
that it was it felt like a knife sheath, such as his hand holds a knife, but instead of a knife.
Did you remove that from him for
I did.
safety? And was that what it was when you removed it from his pocket?
It was a
knife?
money clip
It was a money clip?
or pouch.
Did you open the money pouch?
I did,
And what was in it?
green leafy substance. Which with my training experiences looked like marijuana.
And what did you do after you realized? Did you come to the conclusion in the case or in the search that it was marijuana, or did it just seem like?
Just through my training experience, marijuana has a very distinct smell, texture, stuff like that. So it was, the conclusion was reached that in my professional opinion, that it was marijuana.
And what did you do after that, after finding the marijuana?
I asked him to have a seat on the curb, called for a uniformed officer to come to the scene,
And who showed up to assist you?
Officer Eli.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Well said, Nick.
Yes, Your Honor. Officer Jones, thank you for being here. So you stated that you were off duty, correct?
I was.
So you were just in like normal plain clothes, right?
Normal plain clothes.
So nothing outside, like from your outside of your, I would know that you're a police officer.
Correct.
Okay. And so you were traveling, what were you traveling, coming back from your, getting your daughter, or?
I was dropping her off.
You're dropping her off, okay. And so kind of help me out, what direction were you traveling?
I was going toward Bayer Boulevard from the campus,
Okay,
and that's when I observed it.
okay, so is that like, you're going
So
south?
you can say I was going south.
Okay, so you're going south, and you saw a vehicle, right?
Yes,
Okay, and what color was that?
red.
Red. And that was the vehicle that you noticed that was driving erratically or driving?
Correct.
Okay. So then that triggered inside of you to try to pull them over, right? Because you made a U-turn after that, or?
The vehicle made a U-turn, which I completely followed.
So they were traveling south as well.
They were traveling south and then turned west on the Bay Area. Over the vehicle, U-turn back around to go east and then pulled north back into the parking lot.
Okay. And so you also made that U-turn to follow that vehicle as well?
Correct.
Okay. And when you found a vehicle, what color was that vehicle? When you actually pulled over that had Avery Price? What color was that?
The red Subaru.
Was it a different color? Was it a different license plate?
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure. I would follow the vehicle and never lost sight of it. So I just continued to follow that vehicle.
Okay. So when you started engaging with the vehicle, not so much when you walked up to it, you started hitting like your high beams to get its attention?
Just for the demeanor, that the way that the vehicle was driving in the public roadway during school, it was unsafe. I mean, there's faculty, staff, out and about. So yeah.
But nothing on your vehicle would identify that you're law enforcement.
Not at all.
So what was your intent with using it?
To get the vehicle to slow down and possibly pull over.
So you approached the vehicle and you couldn't see in the vehicle, right? It was like pretty heavy tint. All you could do was actually just hear the yelling.
And I observed shoving, like where the vehicle shakes.
Okay, but you couldn't see through the window.
I could see shoving, a push.
Okay, but you, like you saw the vehicle moving, but you couldn't actually see, like you couldn't see inside the vehicle.
I saw a physical push.
How far away from the vehicle were you when you started noticing that?
When I got out of line to approach, a safe distance enough to take cover.
Okay. And so then you engaged with the driver, which was Avery Price, and you patted him down, and then you noticed that he had some substance. And then after that, you then called for a uniform officer.
Correct.
Why did you wait so long?
Just the situation that it was in, with the erratic driving and then a physical altercation out in public. my immediate thought was to stop the situation going on. Once the scene was secure, then call for safety. That's why I did a weapons pat before calling a unit over.
So when you walked up to the vehicle, Kim Adams was also in the front seat, right?
Yeah.
Where was she at?
The back passengers.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anything further? May the witness be excused?
Subject to recall, Your Honor.
Okay, you are free to go, sir, subject to being recalled. Thank you very much. Please call your next witness.
The state calls Officer Eli to stand, please.
Officer, please come right up here. Please raise your right hand. Swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
I do.
Please have a seat.
Thank you for being here today. Please state your full name for the record.
Officer Adam Eli.
And what is your occupation, Officer Eli?
I'm a patrol officer,
How long have you been a patrol officer?
approximately 13 years.
And what do you do as a patrol officer?
Respond to calls and proactive police work such as traffic stops.
In your career as a police officer, have you had any additional training?
Yes.
And what is that?
Some investigative training, some tactical training, evidence collection.
And who do you currently work for?
The Hawk City Police Department.
On January 3rd, 2022, were you on duty?
Yes.
And were you dispatched to 2700 Bay Area Boulevard that afternoon?
Yes.
And what were you dispatched for?
I was dispatched to a disturbance where an off-duty officer observed a physical disturbance.
And when you arrived on the scene, what did you see?
Met with the off-duty officer and 2 other subjects.
What location was this incident?
This was a college campus parking lot.
Is this public space?
This is
Who else was in the parking lot that day? Anybody from the school, university?
yes, there were other people around.
And who did you speak with when you first approached?
Officer Jones.
And what did Officer Jones explain about the incident that afternoon, or what he had encountered at that point?
Objection, hearsay.
Chris, question. Sustain.
What did you ask Officer Jones when you first approached?
What happened? And he explained that to me.
What did he explain?
Objection, hearsay.
What did you observe when you approached the vehicle and Officer Jones?
That there was a vehicle stopped in the parking lot. Officer Jones was there with 2 other people who were involved in the disturbance.
Why did you arrive on the scene if Officer Jones was already there?
Officer Jones was off duty at the time, and he was not in uniform, not responding to calls. I was on duty and dispatched to relieve Officer Jones of this situation.
Where either of the individuals at the vehicle detained? Were either of them, were they being placed under arrest?
They were not currently under arrest, but they were detained. They were not free to leave. They were sitting on the curb.
And what did Officer Jones tell you was the reason that they were sitting on the curb?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
When you arrived, did Officer Jones leave the scene?
No, he stayed there for a short period of time
And why did he stay?
to explain to me what had happened.
What did you do next?
Spoke to Officer Jones and asked him what happened. He explained to me that there had
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
When you took over the scene, what did you do next?
I placed one defendant under arrest for possession of marijuana based on what I was informed had happened on the scene. Placed that subject in the patrol vehicle. He was placed under arrest for possession of marijuana.
So incident to that arrest, what did you do?
Then called for a record, and began to inventory the vehicle.
And in your initial inventory of the vehicle, what did you locate?
I located a backpack in the back seat, along with some other miscellaneous items.
Your Honor, the state would like to introduce its first evidence.
Okay.
May I approach the witness? Officer Eli, do you recognize this item?
Yes, ma'am.
And without describing it in detail, how do you recognize it?
This is the backpack from that vehicle that was placed into evidence that day.
Your Honor, all evidence was previously tendered to defense counsel at the beginning of trial.
Any
And state
objection
would like,
from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
All right, is it State Exhibit 1?
it's A,
A, State Exhibit A will be admitted.
thank you. Once you found the backpack, what did you do with the backpack?
Went through the backpack based on the odor of marijuana that was present. Inventoried that along with the rest of the vehicle for the record and noticed that there were several items in the backpack.
Were the zippers zipped as they are right now?
No, the front pocket zipper was open,
And what did you see in the front zipper?
US currency money.
And what happened when you found the currency?
Objection, Your Honor. We're getting two items that are on defense question.
What did he do?
The statement.
We haven't gotten there yet. Limiting has been granted, you should not get into any statements, but what did he do with the currency? That's the question.
Correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Steve.
What was the question?
What did you do with the currency when you found it?
The currency was collected as evidence and to be inventoried with the vehicle.
What did the currency, what did the currency look like? Was it $5 bills?
The currency was a wad of cash, approximately $300.
And was it by itself?
No, it was wrapped in a receipt, a paper receipt.
Who do you believe that those items belong to?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained, lay a better prayer.
Judge, may we approach the bench?
That would need to be that she said something. And material, then, like I said, motion, we only says don't see the jury. It's not really- So, eventually, I read it. Contained in the-
Did you ask the passenger, Kim Adams, about the cash found in the backpack?
I did speak to Miss Adams after she had exclaimed that the money in the backpack belonged to her.
And she was not under arrest at that time, correct? Judge, the state moves to, would like to enter evidence or State's Exhibit B.
What is exhibit B?
It's an envelope with the money in it.
Show him ask him to identify it, then present it to council and go through the hoops and have it.
Officer Eli, do you recognize this envelope?
Yes,
And how do you recognize it?
this is one of the items that were in the backpack.
Judge, this item was also tendered to defense counsel prior to trial for any objection.
No objection by the defense counsel.
All right, so the state's exhibit B will be admitted.
Go ahead and you're free to take a look at Exhibit B and tell me what is in the envelope of Exhibit B.
3 $100 bills and 1 Target receipt.
And are those the $100 bills that the defendant exclaimed belonged to her?
Yes,
Did you locate anything else in the backpack during your inventory?
yes, there were some credit cards or debit cards and maybe a couple of other items.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
You may.
This is State's Exhibit C1. C5. Why identify them individually? Officer Eli, do you recognize these items?
Yes, ma'am.
Without describing them in detail, please explain how you recognize them.
Those are also items that were in the backpack that we located.
And what are they?
Credit or debit cards.
Do all the credit cards listed there have the same name?
No, they all have different names.
Are the names on those credit cards, are any of those cards have a name of the defendant?
No,
Your Honor, may I approach the witness
May-
again? State, or Exhibit D. Officer Eli, do you recognize that envelope?
yes.
And how do you recognize it?
It is a list of ATM or cash machine addresses and a zippered pouch.
And where did you find that in the backpack?
That was also located inside the backpack.
Is it reasonable to say that any ordinary reasonable person would have 5 credit cards and a list of ATM?
Objection. Hear an objection, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
Were you alarmed by these items that were found in the backpack?
Yes.
And why
it's
did that alarm you?
unusual for a normal person to have credit cards or debit cards that belong to someone else.
What did you do once you located the 5 credit cards?
Those items were collected and the defendant was placed under arrest
And why did you place the defendant under arrest?
for possessing those credit cards that don't belong.
Why do you believe the defendant had those in her possession?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Overruled, I'll allow it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why do you believe the defendant Kim Adams had those cards in her possession?
It's my belief that she was going to use those cards fraudulently, which is why she was placed under arrest.
What did you do next? Did you, go ahead.
Could you be more specific?
Sure. After arresting both Price and the defendant Kim Adams, what did you do next?
On completing the vehicle inventory, both defendants would have been transported and booked into the jail.
And once you had them both in the jail, what did you do?
Spoke to the defendant.
And did you have to collect any belongings to them at that time?
Yes, they were searched at the jail and had several items that belonged to them on their person.
Did you locate any other items on the defendant Kim Adams?
Yes.
May I approach the witness room?
You may.
State tenders exhibit E to the witness. Officer Eli, can you identify this item?
It's a handwritten note or appears to be a grocery list.
Can you go ahead and open the envelope, please?
Want me to actually open?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's sealed. Trying to open it without tearing it up.
You can. turn it. I'm just gonna set this down. Anyway.
Okay,
And what is inside that envelope?
grocery list with some items.
And is that a handwritten grocery list?
Yes,
The other handwritten item that was located in the backpack. Does it look similar?
It does.
So the handwritten ATM list of addresses that was found in the backpack is similar to this grocery list found in the back pocket of the defendant.
It appears to be similar. It appears that some of the writing is the same.
Objection, they have not qualified this witness to be an expert in handwriting.
We are attempting to prove the connection between the two.
He can testify
He-
to what he physically and personally. observed.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
No.
Yes, okay, thank you. Is there any significance to the handwriting of that grocery list being found in the back pocket of the defendant and the handwriting on the ATM list that was found in the backpack? Is there any significance to that?
It appears to be written by the same person, and it's unusual to have an ATM list of locations with credit cards that don't belong to you.
We passed the witness, Your Honor.
Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor. So Officer Jones, you said that part of your training has also been in, correct me if I'm wrong, did you say investigation?
Yes,
Okay.
I don't know if I said that, but that's part of it. Yes, sir.
Okay, can you clarify then kind of what that training was specifically?
You have a more specific question?
I didn't know, was it specifically in like forensics or investigations or
I would say general investigation.
just general investigation? And what is that?
Traffic stops, burglaries, criminal mischiefs, things that any patrol officer would come across.
Would part of that be, I guess, kind of the incident that you found or
Sure.
something on
Yeah.
January 3rd? Okay, cool. Okay, so, and when we refer back to State's Exhibit B.
Yes.
Oh, yes, okay, so if we go back to State's Exhibit B, that was the money in which got out of the backpack, which is, but there's also a receipt, correct?
Yes, sir.
Target receipt. And on that target receipt, it indicates a cash payment, right?
I'm not sure about that.
If you go to the bottom of the target receipt, what does it indicate at the bottom?
Yeah, that's not open.
Oh, I thought I did, sorry.
You may open.
My apologies. My apologies.
What was your question, sir?
At the bottom of the receipt, does it indicate what type of payment was used or type of payment was used?
It says there's a cash payment of
Okay.
$2.
So if another type of payment was used, such as a credit card or a debit card, it would indicate such, correct?
I would imagine so, yeah.
And so no other type of receipt of a transaction was found in the backpack.
No, sir.
Nothing would indicate that the actual cards were used based on the evidence.
I don't know if the cards were used or not.
Well, I'm saying based on the evidence that you found in the backpack, there was nothing that indicated, at least by a confirmation of transaction, that it was used.
Yes, sir.
So part of your, going through the steps that you took when you got to all of the evidence, did you take any measures or did you just simply start grabbing the materials and then put them into evidence bags?
Not sure what you're asking by that.
Okay, I mean, you simply just saw the backpack, you grabbed it, and then did your inventory, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there was no, I guess, measures to preserve the evidence. Never put gloves on or anything like that.
Evidence would, depending on what it would be, then depending on the evidence, you may have to use gloves if you're, I don't know that any gloves were used in this case. Evidence is then placed in paper bags or plastic bags, so it can be submitted.
What do you mean you don't know? You were the officer that did it, right?
Yes. I don't recall if I had gloves on.
And so what gives you the impression that they would be used fraudulent?
Based on my training and experience and interactions with people every day, it's very unusual for a defendant to have credit cards that are not in their name with what appeared to be a list of locations that they may or may not be used at.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anything further?
Officer Eli, how much marijuana was found on Avery Price?
Approximately 2 ounces.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Anything further from the judge?
Yes, Your Honor. So did you indicate that you just did a routine inventory of the vehicle?
Yes.
Okay, and what consists of a routine?
Any part of the vehicle where valuable property can be kept, the glove box, the ashtray, the trunk.
So when you're doing a routine inventory, what is the purpose?
To document items once the vehicle is towed from the scene, so that once the subject gets their vehicle back, to document that they got all their property back.
So do you go into every single detail of what you find you close?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Oh,
Do you go into detail of every single thing that you find even enclosed? Stored here?
Items of value or items that would be, I would say items of value. Not every item is put on a inventory list.
So where there's so when you started to look at the backpack, were there certain parts of the backpack that were closed?
I don't recall.
So when you opened the bag, you found what the state has listed as state's exhibit, correct?
Yes,
And when you pulled that out, I would assume you actually pulled it out of the backpack, correct? And when you did that, what happened?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
When you pulled it out, did Kim Adams say anything?
The money? Is that the item you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, she explained that that belonged to her.
Okay. And Kim Adams was in the back of the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when you pulled it out, she was just referring to the money itself, correct?
That's it.
Well, so let's say, for example, I pull one item out of the bag and it's in her view, and she says, that's mine. Is she referring to the item that you have in your hand?
My understanding is she was referring to the money that was hers.
Sure. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anything further?
Yes, sir. When she explained that the money was hers, what also did she state?
Objection, hearsay.
She's a defendant.
She is the defendant.
Hearsay rule is not.
Thank you. Sorry. Did
You
she
wanted
make
to
any?
answer the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was gonna rephrase the question if that's
Okay,
okay. Did she make any other statements when she explained that the money was hers?
Yes, but could you be more specific? I'm not sure.
Did she
what
say
you're
how
asking.
she obtained the money?
Believe she said that she obtained the money from the day before, work the day before. I don't have my report in front of me, so.
And when you obtain money from when you work, where do you typically keep it?
With they say,
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, may this witness be excused?
We,
May the witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, you're free to go.
thanks.
Please better next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call state's witness Seth Price to the stand. Seth Price.
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yeah.
Please have a seat. You may proceed.
State your full name.
Seth Prime.
Do you have or have you ever owned a credit card with the last four numbers ending 3726?
Yeah.
With an expiration date of 4/24.
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness, please?
Yes, you may. D one
C1.
C.
And it's already been tendered to the. Yeah.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor, I believe this was already put in.
Can you identify this item without fully describing its contents?
My credit card
How do you know it's your credit card?
has my name on it.
Can you read the name on it?
Seth Price.
Can you read all 12 numbers on the card?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 0, 1, 3, 7, 2, 6,
Can you read the expiration date?
4 of 24.
So you are confirming that you own this credit card.
Yes.
Do you remember the last time you were in possession of this credit card?
New Year's Eve.
And where were you in possession of the match at?
Shooter's Bar.
When did you realize that your card was missing?
New Year's Day.
Did you report it lost or stolen?
Yes.
Who did you report it lost or stolen to?
Chase.
Do you know Kim Adams, the defendant in this trial?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to obtain your credit card?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to possess your credit card?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to use your credit card?
No.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
No questions, Your Honor.
And the witness be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call state's witness Amy Davis to the stand. Sorry. Your Honor.
Ms. Davis, please come right up here.
Here.
Right here. Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
Please have a seat.
Please state your full name.
Amy Davis.
Do you or have you ever owned a credit card with the last four digits ending 4500 and an expiration date of 8/23?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
And that was exhibit C.
Okay.
And it's already,
It's already been,
you identify this item?
Yes, this is my credit card.
How do you know it's your credit card?
It has my numbers and my name.
Can you read the name on the credit card?
Amy Davis.
Can you read all 12 numbers?
4231 0514 8292 4500
Can you read the expiration date?
823.
So you are confirming that you own this credit card.
Yes.
Do you remember the last time you were in possession of this credit card?
Yes.
Where were you?
I was in Shooter's Bar on the 31st,
When did you realize your credit card was missing?
on the 1st.
Did you report it lost or stolen?
Yes, I reported it to Chase.
Do you know Kim Adams, the defendant in this case?
No,
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to obtain your credit card?
no,
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to possess your credit card?
no,
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to use your credit card?
no.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
No questions from the defense, Your Honor.
all right, you may step down there. Please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call state's witness Jesse Knight to the stand.
Good evening, please raise your right hand. Right hand.
I was gonna do that the whole time in my head.
It happens. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Keep that.
Please state your full name.
Jesse Knight.
Do you or have you ever owned a credit card with the last four digits ending 4321 and an expiration date of 2/26?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
And this is exhibit C3.
It is in evidence.
Can you identify this item?
It's my credit card.
How do you know it's your credit card?
It's just my name on it.
Can you read the name on the card?
Jesse Knight.
Can you read all the numbers on the card?
3712-96-0339-5432.
And Ms. Knight, can you just make sure you speak up a little louder for the jury to be able to hear?
Yes.
Can you read the expiration date?
226.
So you are confirming that you own this card.
Yes.
Do you remember last time you were in possession of this credit card?
December 31st.
Where were you at?
Shooters,
When did you know that your credit card was missing?
the next day, January 1st.
Did you report it lost or stolen?
Yes.
And when did you do that?
That same day, January 1st.
What bank did you report it lost or stolen to?
American Express.
Do you know Kim Adams, the defendant in this trial?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to obtain your credit card?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to possess your credit card?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to use your credit card?
No.
Ask the witness.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you, Ms. Knight, for being here. I'm sorry, could you spell your first name for me one more time?
JUSSIE.
No further questions.
All right. I mean, do we need to be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go right, ma'am. You're free to go. Thank you very much. Please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call state's witness Christina Anderson to the stand.
Good evening. Please come right up here. Please raise your right hand. Swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So,
Please state your full name.
Christina Anderson.
Do you or have you ever owned a credit card with the last four digits ending 0236 and an expiration date of 9/22?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
This is exhibit C4. It's already been secured. Can you identify this item?
Yes.
What is that?
It is a credit card.
Whose credit card?
My credit card
How do you know it's your credit card?
has my name on it.
Can you read the name on the card?
Christina Anderson.
Can you read all the numbers on the card?
5718-7750-0794-0236.
Can you read the expiration date?
0922.
So you're confirming that you own this credit card?
Yes.
Do you remember the last time you were in possession of this credit card?
Yes.
When was that?
It was on New Year's Eve at Shooter's Bar.
When did you know that that credit card was missing?
The next day.
Did you report it lost or stolen?
Yes.
When did you report it lost or stolen?
January 1st
Who did you report it lost or stolen to?
to the MasterCard merchant.
Do you know Kim Adams, the defendant in this trial? Did you give Ms. Adams consent to obtain your credit card? Did you give Ms. Adams consent to possess your credit card? Did you give Ms. Adams consent to use your credit card?
No.
Ask the witness.
Cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Anderson, would you please spell your name for the record?
It's CRISINA.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, you may be excused, ma'am. Thank you very much. Please call your next witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call state's witness Sarah Smith to the stand.
Good evening. Fine, please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Please state your full name.
Sarah Smith.
Do you or have you ever owned a credit card with the last four numbers 3316 and an expiration date of 6/25?
Yes, I have.
Your Honor, may I?
You may.
This is exhibit. you identify this item?
Yes, it's my credit card.
How do you know it's your credit card?
Have my name on it.
Can you read the name on the card?
Sarah Smith,
Can you read all numbers on the card?
1000213657893316.
Can you read the expiration date?
0625.
When's the last time? Oh, sorry. Confirming it. Do you remember the last time you were in possession of this credit card? Where were you?
I was at Sugar's Bar with some of my girlfriends.
Did you know? When did you know that your credit card was missing?
I woke up and I couldn't find it the next morning.
Did you report it lost or stolen?
Yes, I did.
Who did you report it lost or stolen?
Capital One Bank.
Do you know Adams, the defendant in this trial?
No.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to obtain your credit card?
No,
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to possess your credit card?
no, I did not.
Did you give Ms. Adams consent to use your credit card?
No, I did not.
Ask the witness, Your Honor.
No questions of this witness. Your Honor.
All right, thank you, be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're free to go. Thank you very much. Please call your name, please.
We have no more witnesses. We don't have any more witnesses. Prosecution for this. I'm sorry. my bad, I'm sorry.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that means you've heard all the evidence the state is going to offer in this case. That triggers a couple of procedural things that we need to do now outside your presence. And it's a good time for a break. So I'll ask you to go with Officer Neves, and we will take a 10-minute break.
Your Honor, if I could ask before everybody's excused to get a photograph together, this would be a good time for the photographer.
Oh,
If
okay.
that's all right. Mr. Abraham, we would like to join us.
I want to be next to the top in my picture.
Is that okay?
Officer Hughes, Officer Hughes, go ahead in the middle.
We need you in the middle.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're wide enough? Or do we need to get-
That turns out.
Especially if we could get you on
The other side, you're a little hard.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can get the. Was she in the middle?
Like
All right, does that work?
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
Aggressive.
Okay, 2 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes.
No, I think we're gonna do a motion now. Or do we want?
Whatever you'd like to do, we'll do it before the jury comes back. Is there going to be a motion?
Yes, Your
I
Honor.
assume it's a motion. Since Mo is your mentor.
It's like reading Hamlet, though, Your Honor. We know how it ends. Before you open.
You want to go and do it now? Motion for directed verdict. Got bedtime. Okay. We're gonna be done. Your Honor, if you'd like, we can go ahead and.
All right, I assume there will be a motion from the defense.
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to make a motion for a directed verdict. Your Honor, the case in which we have heard today by the state has failed to do many things. One of them has, they failed to prove the intent to harm or defraud one another. They've also failed to prove the possession in this case. And they failed to do all of this beyond a reasonable doubt. And the principle that we have to look here is whether or not the jury has a scintilla of evidence. In this case, the defense feels as if the state has failed to provide that. And for those reasons, we would ask the court to grant our motion.
All right. State response.
Much of this we were planning to come out during closing statement. What else?
Intent.
I feel like intent isn't specific in this, so we're saving it for closing statement. Because
Oh,
we're not,
intent possession.
we're not looking for intent to be for use of a credit card.
Well, it is an element of the offense. And they've said that you could not produce a scintilla of evidence to support either the intent or the plan to use.
Well, it says in the statute it was with the intent to harm or defraud another. So.
Her intent was there.
But what we were
the
gonna say
intent-
is, it was harm enough. Everything they went through in the process of losing their car, having it go to the bank, get it redone, and being here today, we saw that all is harm. Unless it had to come out during the.
Your Honor, simply it being there, I mean, I'm not sure if it was there. It's the job of the state to present that to the jury. And in this case, they failed.
Let's talk about the possession, your possession concern. I mean, she possessed 5 or more credit cards. There's a presumption there that she possessed them without the consent of the card holders. And there was statement that she clearly said the items in the backpack belonged to her. She was in custody and control of the backpack the entire time she was in the vehicle. And so if she was in custody and control of the money and the target slip that was in the target receipt that was in the vehicle, she was in possession and custody and control of everything in the backpack.
It was also in her arm's reach, which also counts as it being her custody and her control.
And Your Honor, I
However,
think,
Eli said that whenever he brought the money out of the backpack, that she was looking at the money and that the money was hers.
But when Officer Jones first arrived to the
No,
car,
not
he was in the
Jones,
back
Eli.
seat with her. She was in the back seat with the backpack with her.
Right. And she saw him remove the money from the backpack. And she explained
No, she
that
was
that
at the
money
back
was
of the
hers.
vehicle. We don't know if she could.
All
see
right,
it.
it's a very close question, but like Hamlet, we know how it's going to end. The motion will be denied.
thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Be like a,
I know.
Can you mute the mic on the Zoom chat, on the Zoom meeting? Just mute the mic.
Sorry for that, you know, I apologize, Your Honor. I didn't know that. I thought the 10 minutes started once we were done.
Take your time.
Please be seated. All right. Defense call its first witness.
Yes, Your Honor, the defense would like to call Sergeant Kruger to the stand.
One of the.
Farwalk.
Are you Sergeant Kruger?
Yes, defense counsel.
Good evening, Sergeant. Please come right up here.
Yes, sir.
Right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you are about to offer in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Thank you, sir.
Judge, may we first?
Standards of police operation. Information taken with credit card. Actually, not legal. So it's largely stable with that. Which you have experience and training. All that. All right, you may proceed.
Good afternoon. Would you please state your name for the record?
Sergeant Eugene Kruger.
Sergeant Kruger, and what department are
I am currently with the University of Houston Clear Lake Police Department
you? Okay, and how long have you been there?
for 8 years.
And before your time with the University of Houston Clear Lake Police Department, were you with another agency prior to that?
Yes, I was with the Houston Police Department
Okay, and how long were you with the
I was a patrol officer for 15 years, a sergeant for 5 years in investigations, and 3 years as a lieutenant over investigations.
Okay, and with all those titles, both in the Houston Police Department, and with what you currently, well, actually, take that back. With the Houston Police Department, what was your role and duties in with those ranks, the sergeant and lieutenant?
Repeat the question.
Your role as a sergeant and lieutenant at Houston Police Department, can you kind of describe what your roles and your duties with that rank?
Ultimately, with a ranking position, Investigation Bureau, I oversaw a great number of detectives and had oversight on all the investigations that were ongoing in my division to make sure that they were being done correctly.
Okay, and can you talk to me about your education? Go to college?
Yes,
Where did you go to college?
I went to Sam Houston State University for both my bachelor's and my master's degree in criminal justice and a master's degree in forensic science.
And also, being an officer, I would assume that you have other training as well, just within the department.
Yes.
And what does that training consist of? It consists of things over forensic investigation, just
It's-
normal police operations.
Yes, it's over an array of topics from normal police operations, investigations, de-escalation, force, and credit card.
So with over, I'd say about 30 years of experience as a law enforcement officer, have you ever testified in court before?
Yes,
Okay, and have you testified before just as an officer in a case?
yes,
And have you also testified as an expert witness?
yes,
Have you testified before in district court?
yes,
And I would assume that part of that was being called by the state to be an expert witness, or just to be a witness as an officer.
yes.
Dr. Kruger, are there times in which off-duty officers encounter some type of unlawful activities?
Yes.
Is it common for an off-duty officer to pursue interaction with the subject for a traffic offense?
No.
Are there certain instances in which officers should intervene while off?
Sorry, repeat the question.
Are there certain instances in which officers should, rather than, let me rephrase that question. Why is it not typical for an officer to pursue traffic offenses while off?
While off duty, officers are not in uniform. They're not under official color of law, and their department policy is into that.
Okay. Is it also common for an off-duty officer to pursue a subject in their personal vehicle and attempt to pull them over?
No, they're not.
Sergeant Kruger, during your time in law enforcement, have you worked any form of credit card business?
Yeah.
Okay. What are some investigative measures that are typically taken in type of cases?
At the bare minimum, typical measures include making contact with the card holders, running forensics analysis on the cards, and checking on whether or not the card's funds have been.
And when you say more of a forensic analysis, I'm assuming that you're referring to things like fingerprints and such.
Yes, and then there's also digital forensics.
Okay. And when you're on scene of a potential case like that, what are some preventative measures to keep the integrity of the evidence? What it means, things like gloves or paper bags or sealing.
There's
Can you speak on that?
there's an evidence process called chain of custody. Right, there are certain measures in securing the evidence,
Okay.
and that all has to be tracked.
Could you kind of speak on that?
With chain of custody, from the location that the evidence is found, it has to be tracked from person to person, and that's usually logged on the evidence bag itself, or if the item's too large, an evidence tag, and it all has to be recorded as well as the report, and then it's it's taken to a secure location, evidence locker, before the further process.
And from the initial stages of obtaining the property, as far as like keeping the integrity of the evidence, are there measures as well? And such as like, making sure that no other fingerprints get on it.
There's equipment that, yeah, gloves.
Okay. So I assume that a great amount of your work as an officer during these types of investigations is report, right?
Yeah.
So anything and everything that an officer does on a case should be included on a report that they do.
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a common conclusion that is made for something that is not included on a report?
Yes, if it's not included in the report, then that means it didn't happen.
During your time in law enforcement, has the University of Houston Clear Lake and Target on Bay Area Boulevard been in your jurisdiction?
Yes,
Have you ever had to do investigation work at any of these two institutions?
yes,
And are both of those equipped with audio and video recording?
yes.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Officer Kruger.
Kruger, sorry.
Sergeant,
yes,
Sergeant. What department is it again that you said you work for?
Presently, I work for University of Houston Clear Lake.
And are you aware of what department the officers who testified today work for?
I am from the report.
Can you tell me what department they work for?
One is Cougar City Police Department, and I'd have to reference the police report for the other one.
Are you aware of the procedures that the Cougar City Police Department use?
No, ma'am.
Are you aware of what a breach of peace is?
Yes, ma'am.
So would you say that if you saw two individuals having an altercation, that would qualify as a breach of peace?
Yes, ma'am.
Would that give grounds for a off-duty officer to intervene?
Yes, ma'am.
So but before this trial, did you speak with anybody from the prosecution?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you remember your conversation with the prosecution?
I don't recollect all the information, but I do remember speaking with them.
Do you recall telling her that you started working for the Shield Department in March 2020?
Yes, ma'am.
So you just testified that you worked for them for 8 years?
Permission
Yes,
to
ma'am.
approach, Your Honor.
What's your objection?
The technicality of the line of questioning that they're about to go.
Well, let's see, when we get there, we will lodge an objection, and let's see where, do not ask for anything that's contained in any kind of statements, et cetera, until you have laid your prayer.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
No further questions.
All right, thank you, be excused.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, you're free to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Defense rest, Your Honor.
Anything in rebuttal from the state? All right, the evidence is closed. That means you've heard all the evidence you're going to hear. We will take a very quick break to put together the charge of the court. Contains definitions and instructions for you when you go to deliberate. So take about a 5-minute, 10-minute break, and we will get that hashed out and have you back in for closing argument. Please go with the officer. Please be seated. We need the defense lawyer.
I'll get it.
There's been times I thought about not coming back. Should win by default.
I felt that on a few occasions. Even as a judge.
Oh, yeah.
They're still in my.
I said take a break. I didn't really mean to join. All right, at this time, I'm going to read the charge of the court to you. And continuing to do your duty as jurors, you will continue to follow all instructions which have previously been given to you. Do not violate any of those instructions. That's because your conduct is subject to review the same as attorneys, the parties, me, and you. So please do not violate any rules, or that could be jury misconduct and could call for a new trial by a jury. Cause number 22 CR 000016, State of Texas versus Kim Adams. Charged with the court, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. The defendant, Kim Adams, stands charged by indictment with the offense of fraudulent use or possession of credit card or debit card information alleged to have been committed on or about the 3rd day of January 2022 in Hawk County, Texas. To this charge, the defendant has pleaded not guilty. A person commits an offense if, not being the cardholder and without the effective consent of the cardholder, the defendant possesses a credit card or debit card with intent to use it. Cardholder means the person named on the face of the credit card or a debit card to whom and for whose benefit the card is issued. Credit card means an identification card, plate, coupon, book, number, or any other device authorizing a designated person or bearer to obtain property or services on credit. The term includes the number or description of the device if the device itself is not produced at the time of ordering or obtaining the property or service. Consent means consent in fact, whether expressed or apparent. Effective consent includes consent by a person legally authorized to act for the owner. Consent is not effective if induced by fraud, force, threat, or fraud given by a person the actor knows is not legally authorized to act for the owner, given by a person who by reason of youth, mental disease or defect or intoxication is known by the actor to be unable to make reasonable decisions, are given solely to detect the commission of an offense. A rebuttable presumption exists that the actor possessed each item without the consent of the account holder if an actor possessed 5 or more numbers and expiration dates of a credit card or debit card. A person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the nature of his conduct or to a result of his conduct when it is his conscious objective or desire to engage in the conduct or cause the results. You are instructed that when an indictment alleges an offense occurred on or about a certain date, that the defendant may be convicted if you believe beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the offense within the period of the statute of limitations preceding the filing of the indictment. In this case, the indictment was filed on January 13, 2022, and the statute of limitations for the offense of fraudulent use or possession of credit card or debit card information is 7 years. Now, if you find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Kim Adams, owner about the 3rd day of January 2022, in the county of Hawk and state of Texas, did then and there with intent to use a credit card or debit card, namely those which are identified in the indictment, and not being the cardholder, possess said card without the effective consent of the account holders, namely Seth Price, Amy Davis, Jesse Knight, Christina Anderson, and Sarah Smith, the respective cardholders, then you will find the defendant guilty of fraudulent use or possession of identifying information as charged in the indictment. Unless you so find from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, or if you have a reasonable doubt thereof, you will acquit the defendant and say by your verdict, not guilty. The grand jury indictment is the means whereby a defendant is brought to trial in a felony prosecution. It is not evidence of guilt, nor can it be considered by you in passing upon the question of guilt of the defendant. The burden of proof in all criminal cases rests upon the state throughout the trial and never shifts to the defendant. It is not required that the prosecution prove guilt beyond all possible doubt. It is required that the prosecution's proof excludes all reasonable doubt concerning the defendant's guilt. In the event you have a reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt, after considering all the evidence before you and these instructions, you will acquit her and say by your verdict, not guilty. You are the exclusive judges of the facts proved, of the credibility of the witnesses, and the weight to be given their testimony, but the law you shall receive in these written instructions, and you must be governed thereby. Our law provides that a defendant may testify in her own behalf if she elects to do so. This, however, is a right accorded to a defendant, and in the event she elects not to testify, that fact cannot be taken as a circumstance against her. In this case, the defendant has elected not to testify, and you are instructed that you cannot and must not refer to or allude to that fact throughout your deliberations or take it into consideration for any purpose whatsoever as a circumstance against her. After you retire to the jury room, you should select one of your members as your foreperson. It is his or her duty to preside at your deliberations, vote with you, and when you have unanimously agreed upon a verdict, to certify to your verdict by using the appropriate form attached hereto and signing the same as foreperson. No one has any authority to communicate with you except the officer who has you in charge. That will be Officer Hughes. After you have retired, you may communicate with this court in writing through the officer who has you in charge. Do not attempt to talk to the officer who has you in charge, or the attorneys, or the court, or anyone else concerning any question you may have. After you have reached a unanimous verdict, the foreperson will certify thereto by filling in the appropriate form attached to this charge and signing his or her name as foreperson. Suitable forms for your verdict are hereto attached. Your verdict must be in writing and signed by your foreperson. Your sole duty at this time is to determine the guilt or innocence of the defendant under the indictment in this case, and restrict your deliberations solely to the issue of guilt or innocence of the defendant. Following the arguments of counsel, you will retire to consider your verdict. Attached to the charge on the back page is your verdict form. You have two choices. First says, we the jury find the defendant, Kim Adams, guilty of fraudulent use or possession of credit card or debit card information as charged in the indictment. Signature line for your foreperson and the blank for him or her to print their name. Second choice, we the jury found the defendant, Kim Adams, not guilty. And again, a signature line and a place for you to print the name. All right, this time we'll recognize the prosecution for closing arguments.
So this trial has reminded me a lot of an old saying that a professor of mine used to beat into the heads of my fellow legal studies students and myself. And that saying was KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And it rang in my head this entire trial because I realized that throughout a lot of this trial, the fight was becoming a lot bigger than the issue. We were getting so deep out into the water, we could barely see the shore. And the only things that matter in this case are very simple. Did Miss Adams obtain and possess those credit cards without the consent of the cardholders? Did she have an intent to do harm? As far as obtaining and possessing the credit cards, though they're written separately in the statute, and that's fine, they really go hand in hand. Can't really obtain something without possessing it, and you can't really possess something without obtaining it. And what's interesting about where the credit cards were and where Miss Adams were is that they were in the backseat of the car with her. And it's very striking that she was even in the backseat and that the driver, Avery Price, was in the front seat, because that indicates to me that their relationship couldn't have been any more than that of an Uber driver and a passenger. If there was any kind of intimate relationship between those two, if they were friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever they were, it's very likely she would have been sitting in the front seat. Now, the defense didn't tell us why she was sitting in the back seat, so I don't know exactly what it is. But what I do know is that that's a very small intimacy between the two if she's sitting in the back seat. And since she was the only one sitting in the back seat without what looked like any kind of relationship to Price, whatever is back there, it's reasonable to believe it belongs to her. It's within her arm reach. It's within her control. It's within her care. Not only that, but she confessed that something in that backpack was hers. And this wasn't a small thing. This was $300 that she made, well, she claimed she made the day before. And if we're going to believe her that she made it the day before, that means she's had 24 hours to put that money anywhere else. She could have put it in a bank. She could have put it in another bag. She could have put it in her shoe, her bra, her pocket, wherever. But for some reason, she decided the safest place to put her money was in that backpack. And she's had 24 hours to put it in any safe space. And the reason she put it in that backpack was because it was her safe space. She could have put it anywhere, but that's where she put it. And with that much time, it's because that's where it belonged. And so that is possession of the credit cards. That is obtaining of the credit cards. And obviously they didn't walk into the car. They didn't pop up magically. They got there somehow. So she's in possession of them. She obtained them. And obviously, all 5 cardholders got up here and said they didn't know her and that she never had consent to get their credit cards anyways. The only thing that's left would be intent. In this case, intent to do harm or fraud does not have to mean that she actually used the credit cards. Because is it not harm enough that the credit card holders went through what they went through when they found out their credit cards were missing? I'm sure a lot of you could resonate with that feeling. Probably lost a credit card or a debit card, it's gone missing. And I think we all know what that gut-wrenching feeling feels like when your heart drops into your stomach, when you get paranoid, you get full of fear. You have no clue what happened to your credit card. And the worst thing that you can think of is that somebody else out there has it. And now for most of us, we either end up finding it or report it lost or stolen and nothing ever happens. Our biggest fear is that someone else has it. In this case, this is exactly what happened. Somebody else had their credit cards. They had to show up today. And I'm sure they would probably rather do anything else than be here today. They would have rather done anything else than have their credit cards taken from them. They went through the pain, the paranoia, the fear. They went through the process of having to get their cards reported, waiting for a new one. Is that not harm? That is harmful. And if you had to do it, it would be harmful for you too. And Miss Adams needs to be convicted today because if she walks free, I'll tell you right now, she's not gonna not do this again. If she walks free, she's gonna do this again and she's just gonna try to find a smarter way to do it. She needs a real consequence. She needs real action to be taken against her so to deter her from ever doing it again and to deter society from ever doing it as well.
Vince?
This is a case about choosing one possibility over many. And this led to an assumption that Officer Eli made when he found the backpack and saw that 3 $100 bills were in the front pocket, and that Kim Adams exclaimed that it was her own after he pulled it out of the backpack. Now, this very assumption cannot be made without regarding the other possibilities. There are many reasons why Kim Adams could have put her money in the backpack. But these reasons do not definitely lead to her having the backpack, her owning the backpack. For example, what was pretending to be the driver of the vehicle, Officer Avery Price, he could have put his backpack in the back seat. And because this possibility exists, it's not proven for a fact that the backpack belonged to Kim Adams. Whenever she explained that only the money was hers, that she could have went in the car. One possibility when she went into the car is that she did not want to carry the money on her. She had no purse or anything else that was noted in the facts. That she did not want to carry this in her back pocket. Sure, she had a grocery list in her back pocket. But who's to say that she wanted something valuable like $300 bills? However, does this lead to that backpack being her own? No, and that's because that backpack was left unzipped. If she truly wanted it to be safe, she would have zipped closed the backpack if it was her own. And because it was not her own, she left it open. And it's very likely reason that a very likely possibility that she left it unzipped, that she could remember to grab her money out of the backpack. She did not want to lose it. She did not want to keep it on, or for fear of losing it or having it pickpocketed or whatnot. She put it in the backpack, and it's hard to see being with it. It does not matter. ATM list does not matter unless the state brought on a handwriting expert, which they did not. And speaking of the procedures, Officer Eli does not even know whether he was wearing gloves on the scene or not. The state could not even reliably get DNA evidence from the scene to say for certain whether Kim Adams was the owner of that backpack and thus in possession by credit cards found in the backpack. And they also disregarded our request for getting audio and visual footage of USL parking lot, Target, or the policeman's equipment. And Officer Eli did not even think to attempt the question if Adams began to say her random rights when he was inventorying the vehicle. However, she was open enough to say out of the blue after he pulled out that money, that she could see from the back end of the vehicle, that it was that, oh, could you tell me more about this? Nothing of the sort, no attempt. And because there was no attempt and there is such a disregard for finding more incriminating evidence to say for sure, 100%, that Kim Adams was in possession of this backpack, they can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt because there's still a doubt left in the case. I do have to reiterate that the belongings, the credit card, the ATM list are the zipped portion of the backpack. Our money and card receipt were an unzipped portion. So take that into consideration, whether you think that someone would leave their money, $300 worth, in an unzipped portion of the backpack if they truly wanted it to be safe, like the state said. All in all, it shows that Officer Eli had a lack of diligence, lack of regard, neglect, and apathy towards seeking the truth, toward getting enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Kim Adams committed this crime. And the issue of whether she was still in possession, or that whether she was in possession of the credit cards or debit cards, still remains. And this remains because they did not do their job. And they did not do it well. So I ask you, the jury, to consider doubt remaining in this case, whether there was sufficient evidence, and whether the people involved in it, the officers, did their job well enough to come to such a conclusion. The defense rests.
Rebuttal.
So the defense just came up here and really took a lot of jabs at the police officers that testified for us. And they also came up here and told a couple bold-faced lies. She said that Officer Eli made the assumption multiple times that that money belonged to Kim Adams. He never made the assumption. He made it clear that when he grabbed that money out of the backpack, she explained to him that money belongs to me. So there was no assumption by Officer Eli. There was only the testimony that Kim Adams made herself. So I just want to make that clear. That was not an assumption. That was a fact. Moving on, as far as this backpack is concerned, remember that Avery Price was found with 2 ounces of marijuana on him in his pocket when they got to the scene. I'm not sure how familiar any of you are with marijuana, and I'm not going to assume any of you are. But I'm going to let you know right now, 2 ounces is not a little bit to keep in your pocket. Most drug dealers, most marijuana users do not want to keep 2 ounces of marijuana in their pocket when they have a perfectly accessible backpack in the back seat. But the reason he didn't put it in there is because that backpack didn't belong to him. And you would think the one thing in that car that you really want to keep concealed because of the smell of it, he didn't conceal it in the backpack, once again, because that backpack wasn't his. And if the backpack's not his, it's only one person's in that car. Also, I'm not really concerned about a cup in the car. I'm not concerned about the color of the car. I'm not concerned about really anything other than proving to you that she did obtain the credit card. She did possess them, and she had an intent to do harm. And I know that the state proved that today.
All right, thank you. You've now heard all the evidence, been read the court's charge, and heard the closing arguments of counsel. Please go with the officer, and we will await the verdict. All rise for the jury. Oh. Please be seated. Jury. Please be seated. All right, Mr. Foreman, looks like you are the presiding juror. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, I can keep seeing. I have received your note. Do you believe that any further deliberations will break this deadlock?
I'm sorry, so that note was actually not written. by me, it was by her.
Okay. All right, do any of you believe that continuing to deliberate will make anyone change their mind?
From the looks of it, no.
And we can put you up in a hotel tonight.
I'll call the help.
I'm sure we can find an appropriate cheap hotel. All right, so you don't believe that anything further is going to change anyone's mind?
No, sir.
Defense moves on that.
State's position on this?
Can we say no?
The state believes that we proved every element in this case.
No, that's not it. That's it. Send them back and make them continue deliberating and sequester them overnight, or send them home and make them come back tomorrow morning.
We would like for them to deliberate for about 5 more minutes.
Okay. We have a motion from Mr. Alston. We'll do this again with a different jury on a different day. Fine. We are done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.